Hello, my happy crumpin' wargamers. Welcome back to the show. Today, we are going to talk about a super important issue that is causing a firestorm online. People are freaking out. Don't worry, I'm here. I'm going to help you. Everyone's going to pump their brakes. We're just going to calm down because the game of Warhammer 40,000 has not radically changed in the last 24 hours. So many of you have probably seen this picture. Yes, this one right here. The World Championships of Warhammer. It's got a headline, it's got a fancy official logo that says Warhammer 40,000, and what it does is it pretty dramatically changes the way the game is played. So, inevitably, once this gets in the hands of a bunch of people on the internet, people start freaking out about how different the game is now and how we have to start playing by different rules. Let me help you. So, just breathe for a moment and look at me. Seriously, look at me. This is not a official FAQ for the game of Warhammer 40,000. The difference from today and yesterday and the day before is zero to you. There is no difference in the way that you're playing Warhammer 40,000 today than there was last week. The only difference this FAQ makes is it makes a difference to the way this specific event is going to be played. So basically, for those of you who don't know, the World Championships of Warhammer is taking place in November in Atlanta. And people who won a golden ticket at a certain qualifying event around the world are now invited to come and play in this tournament. Well, the events team for Warhammer 40,000 has actually created a specific FAQ for that event. And that's the picture we're looking at. This one. This picture. This is the very specific event FAQ. There's a huge difference between an event FAQ and a FAQ officially for the game. That would have been posted on Warcom. There would have been articles posted and explanation posted by Games Workshop. They didn't do that. This was a very specific list of FAQs that is only for this event. Now, some people in my circle, by the way, are saying, oh, well, this is obviously the intent of Games Workshop, and they want us to play these ways, so we're just going to adopt these rules for all of gameplay now. Wrong. You are mistaken. You cannot make that claim. You have no idea if this is the way that Games Workshop wants the game to be played. You are interpreting that out of the ether. You heard rumors. You're like, oh, but this official person put it out, which means obviously that's the way that Games Workshop intends it. Negative, Ghost Rider. You have no basis in that. This is obviously the way that the event team at Games Workshop wants this event to be played. That is all we can infer from this document. Now, you might say, Jonathan, but shouldn't we think that this is how it's going to change in the future? Sure, no problem. You can think that this is how it's going to change in the future, and honestly, it's probably not a bad guess, but you don't know that's what's going to happen. Many, many times Games Workshop has put out FAQs and they've changed it, or they've leaked information, or I guess content creators leaked information, and Games Workshop ended up changing the way it was. Things change, people. This is not an official FAQ for the entire game. If you want to adopt this for the way you play, feel free. No problem. That's awesome. Say, hey, we're playing by WCW rules. I do a very similar thing. I play by WTC rules, which is the World Team Championships. But that's not the way Warhammer is played. That is the way the WTC FAQ works. And so when I say I'm playing WTC, that's what I mean. We're not actually playing Warhammer 40,000. We're playing something that is 99.9% the same as Warhammer 40,000 with a few subtle differences. One of those really big, let me give you an example of these differences. So if I'm playing in the WTC style, WTC actually allows for you to stand inside of a wall on the charge in order to limit uninteractive play. Basically, it means that you can't stand 0.9 inches away from a wall so that your opponent can't possibly charge you. And that is a change that the WTC has made, and I love that change. I think it's great. Besides one or two other little things, WTC is exactly the same as the game of Warhammer 40,000, as GW wrote it. But it's not the same. So when I say, hey, we're playing by WTC rules, that's what I mean. That doesn't apply to the rest of the game. So if you're not playing by WTC rules, you don't use that ruling. That's okay. The World Championship of Warhammer, or the WCW, is the exact same thing. There's no difference between the way that you treat this and the way that you treat the WTC. If you like the WCW rulings and you are a TO, adopt it. But make sure that you're saying you're using the WCW FAQ. Don't expect people to think that this is the rules of the game, because this is not the rules of the game. So the big changes here is going to be, one, that you can't disembark from strap reserves if you're, say, you have, or I'm within 9 inches. Which was a really cool little strategy to have a Land Raider come in from strat reserves. You disembark, then you have a 6-inch charge from strat reserve, which is really cool. Now, you can't do that anymore under WCW rules. Right? If you're just playing Warhammer, you 100% can do it. All right. Another really big change is that they are counting weapons as being different and distinct from the models. So units that have the rules to ignore modifiers, Trajan Valoris, you've also got Grim Demeanor for the Votan, you've got Mortarion who can do it. They're saying that doesn't apply to your weapons, that only applies to your model, which is a really slippery slope. And I actually hate this ruling, even though I like most of the document. This ruling is really, really bad for the game because what it means is that you don't ignore weapon skill modifiers. You don't ignore ballistic skill modifiers because those are the weapons characteristics, not the models. And it also opens up the argument to saying that you can't ignore to hit modifiers and you can't ignore to wound modifiers because a model can't wound, right? A wound is a roll that's based off of the weapon. So it leads to this really, really strange interpretation, which dramatically changed the game. So I really hope that that is not something they intend to implement in the future. As of right now, it hasn't been implemented, so there's no worries unless you're playing at the WCW, which I'm not, and which the vast majority of people are not. So this just doesn't matter. So stop saying that the games are different. Stop saying that we have to adopt these changes, because you don't. You have no idea if this is what Games Workshop intends. My personal belief, and this is not real, this is just my belief, is that Games Workshop intends for this to be a dry run. They want to run these rules at the WCW to see how it works, so that then when they issue an FAQ in the future, they know that some of these rulings work or don't work. And I think that's a great idea. I think Games Workshop is doing an awesome job of doing that, right? If they do a dry run at this championships and they're like, hey, by the way, this ruling actually doesn't work because the way it's worded, we're saying that weapons are different than models. We need to change that, but keep everything else. That's freaking great. But Games Workshop did not release this. This was only sent to the people who were actually playing at the tournament. And there's we can assume this is what GW's intent is. But that's all you're doing. You're just assuming. And you know what they say about assuming. So let's not assume, people. Play Warhammer. You love Warhammer. The rules have not changed at all for you in the least. The only people it's changed for is people who are going to this event, and it only changed for that event. For everyone else, none of this applies unless your TO thinks that they want to use these rule sets, and then your TO needs to very specifically tell you that we're using these rule sets, not the core rules of Warhammer 40k, because this is not the core rules. Until GW releases an actual official FAQ. This is not the core rules. Anyway, my rant is done. I really hope you guys enjoy this. I hope this clarifies things for people, because people are freaking out, and you really shouldn't be. So if you want to be part of robust conversations like this on the day, you should hop into the Discord, especially the members only side. That's where you can support me, and that's where we get into really in-depth tactical conversations on the Discord. We use the free section all the time because we like to help people out who are in the free side as well. But of course, you know, I give a little extra thank you to my members, and you can access that via my Ko-Fi link, which is down in the description. And until next time, everyone, happy Conan. Love you all. Bye.